Well, as another school year begins, jitters have become more intense as the cloud of COVID-19 continues. But what happens if a student contracts the virus while at school and as a result infects their parents, resulting in mom and dad not being able to work? Nainesh Kotak, disability injury lawyer, joins us to explain that you might be entitled to a personal injury settlement. Thanks so much for joining us via Skype this morning. Good to see you.
You're welcome. Good to see you too.
So this, I'm sure, a big concern for parents. Are you expecting to see a lot of litigation in this area?
You know, I think there may well be, but we have to sort of realize that not every injury is compensable. There's some things you have to prove. For example, in a case of COVID contracted at school, what you got to prove is a duty of care, and you might be able to do that on behalf of the school board. But then you got to show that they were negligent, and I think that's going to be you're going to have some difficulty with that. I believe. You'd have to show that they didn't act in a prudent manner, what a prudent school board would do. Did they follow guidelines? But then here's the kicker. Beyond that, you've got to prove the causation. That being that the actual, the child got COVID and as a result, the parent contracted COVID as a result of a negligence of a school. And we know, there's difficulty with tracing. Maybe the illness came via the parent. Maybe it was through friends or sports activities. So although and unfortunately I do see the potential that people may sue, I think it's going to be a very difficult case to establish, not impossible. We have to also look at this. And for public schools, there is that option where students could study from home. So I think the school board would have a variety of defenses and probably a fair bit of sympathy from the judiciary. In the sense that they're working in very, very difficult circumstances with a novel pandemic.
And we'll get to home learning in a second because I want to ask you about the learning pods that have cropped up. Listen, we've had, actually it's in the news this morning, Halton, a few more classrooms has been impacted. What if there's a full-blown outbreak at a school? Could this lead to class actions?
Yes, you never know. I think it all depends on the actions of the school. We know there could be full-blown outbreaks. This disease is very viral. I mean, it spreads so quickly. You'd have to look at really the reasonable steps that a school board may have taken. And so far, I think that they've got it right. They're looking at isolating cohorts, separating children who are at school, so they're not associating or mixing their lunches with groups with other children. So I think as long as the school follows those protocols, follows the mask wearing, for the appropriate age children, even if an outbreak does occur, it will be difficult to prove. I could see circumstances, if there's obvious negligence, a total ignoring of mask requirements and a non-reporting of COVID conditions. Then I could see that potential of class actions occurring. But for the most part, we haven't seen that type of behavior yet, that's for sure.
Yeah. Are there any historical cases, not related to COVID, but might set some precedent here? And what acts does this all fall under?
There's been cases where the school board is vicariously liable for actions of teachers, historic sexual abuse, those conditions that have happened and have led to liability. But this is, again, it's, unless we go back to the Spanish flu back, in 1918, to look what happened then, I doubt very much there was litigation at that time. They were finishing up World War I. So I think it's very unprecedented here. And if there is, there certainly are other class actions that have been commenced, long-term care homes, etc. But I think the schools are a special circumstance. I think the courts are going to want children to go to school, want to protect the school. So I think it's going to be a little bit more dicier in terms of whether there's any class action and whether there's even success with it.
Okay, just a few seconds left, but again, back to the at-home learning, because these learning pods have cropped up and the contact tracing might be easier, but the same things apply here?
Yes, I think, there's a real warning with these pods. Look, I think parents certainly are doing the right thing, protecting their children, having small groups, but what is the standard of care? They don't have the guidelines that the schools will have from the Ministry of Education. They won't have that. And the question is this: if a child gets COVID from another child or in another home, there could be claims, and the home insurance may not cover it because this is sort of a business venture. There may be exclusions. So if you're going to have a pod, very important, talk to your insurance company as a group. Are we covered? If not, buy coverage. As a group. I think if you're doing the prudent thing, protecting your
Yeah.
children, keeping them at home, and do that, get the right insurance to protect yourself in the event something goes wrong.
That's great advice, and there's lots more great advice on your website, and we'll connect all your socials at chch.com. At Kotak Law, Nainesh Kotak, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.